to the latest broadcast. This is Pastor Doug White, and we're in Boulder, Colorado. This is God's Feeding Station, and the studio next to me is Henry Loke, and today we're talking about the book of Ruth. So, Henry, tell us about where we're at, what we're doing, and...
Starting chapter 3.
Okay.
Just titled it Redemption.
Redemption. Well, for those of you that have been following us around for a little while here, we're in the book of Ruth. It's kind of exciting to be in the Old Testament and talking about a story that has shown some great character in a gentleman named Boaz, a mother or a mother-in-law actually named Naomi, which means the pleasant one. And she's been through quite a bit in life, gotten a little bitter over some of the things. Her husband had died. Both of her sons had died, and she takes her two daughter-in-laws back to her ancient land and then tries to send them back on their own way back to the land of the Moabites. But she's got this daughter named Ruth that is really something. And Ruth is, she's a great character as well, isn't she, Henry?
Yeah, she's not having it.
She's just not having it, man.
Nope.
So she's been working along with this guy in a field in Boaz. And if you haven't been listening to our latest broadcast, we'd recommend you go back, pick up the last couple ahead of time and get yourselves caught up a little bit on Ruth. But today we're in chapter 3, verse 1. And I'll probably read... I'm going to just read the story, maybe 10 verses or something and see what happens, okay?
Yep.
So one day Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, that's Ruth, my daughter, should I not try to find a home for you where you will be well provided for? Is not Boaz, with whose servant girls you've been, a kinsman of ours? Tonight he will be winnowing barley on the threshing floor. Wash and perfume yourself. Put on your best clothes. Then go down to the threshing floor, but don't let him know you are there until he has finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, note the place where he is lying. Then go and uncover his feet and lie down. He will tell you what to do. I will do whatever you say, Ruth answered. So she went down to the threshing floor and did everything her mother-in-law told her to do. When Boaz had finished eating and drinking and was in good spirits, he went over to lie down at the far end of the grain pile. Ruth approached quietly, uncovered his feet, and laid down. In the middle of the night, something startled the man, and he turned and discovered a woman lying at his feet. Who are you? He asked. I am your servant Ruth, she said. Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a kinsman redeemer. Okay. Wow. There's a lot going on here, man.
Yep.
Henry, where would you like to start on this?
What is this whole uncovering the feet thing?
Yeah, that's a great story. Actually, what I believe, I did quite a bit of study this week on the history, the ancient culture, the background and the kinsman redeemer. And it's basically, some would translate it, expose his genitals, okay? That you open it all the way up and it's a sign for some kind of an encounter. No kidding. Now, when you read this in context, she's really getting prepared to ask him if he would take her under his wings to be actually his bride, okay? But had she been a prostitute girl, which is apparently in the historical background, they would go up to where the guys were working late, and they'd be in these threshing situations where they're working on the barley and the grain, and when they would lay down there at night, the prostitutes would come and be there in the places at times. So some of the ancient language, if you start to read this, starts to look a little steamy, But when you see what Boaz says to her as we go further in the story, I think you're going to find they're preparing for the reality of the kinsman redeemer, which will bring on the bloodline of a child, but it has to be done through marriage. So in that historical background, then someone who qualifies marries the widow. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. But, I saw you look up in the monitor when I started. You're like, wow. So I think all I could get out of uncovering the feet has to do with, he gets cold and then he realizes that you're there and that you're asking to be covered too.
Right. Well, that's not where you were going initially, though. Well, I mean, I get it.
I understand.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if it were any other than Boaz and Ruth, who seem righteous and about God's will, then you can get away with that. But
there's still the human, inclination
wow.
here.
I didn't think that's what it meant.
I'm thinking, Naomi, she's kind of got a diabolical plan here. The mother-in-law's wanting to make sure her daughter's covered.
I don't know if it's diabolical.
I mean, it's pretty premeditated, though.
Well, it's premeditated, yeah. But I don't think it's diabolical. I think it's just looking for her looking for Ruth to make sure that Ruth's taken care of. That was the whole thing with trying to send her back. I will respectfully disagree with you.
Well, but you know what I meant by what I'm saying diabolical is that she has all these details, like, for example, wash yourself, perfume yourself, put on your best dress. Then when he's asleep, go lay down to a certain place right next to him, and then he'll tell you what to do. Okay, now that sounds to me like a premeditated plan.
Oh, I'm not arguing that it's premeditated. I'm not arguing that at all.
That's what I meant. Yeah. But she doesn't tell Ruth that she's going to be setting up a marriage to Boaz. I mean, Naomi calls her daughter.
That's
right?
truly her intent, though, to make sure that Ruth is taken care of.
Yeah, I don't think it's their intent is to send her daughter-in-law into prostitution.
No.
Okay.
No, and I think, like I said, if it were anybody but Boaz, she would have tackled it a different way, I think.
I would agree. Yeah.
So, no, go ahead.
Yeah, well, and normally the term for putting on the perfume, ancient language, means to anoint yourself, and most likely they used olive oil. And based on the time of year, usually humidity, people would be sweaty. They'd have a lot of body odors and stuff like that. So part of that was designed to clean herself up and get her ready, kind of like preparing a bride before.
Right. Yep.
Okay, but now this is what's interesting. I found some other historical background that when a woman was a widow, she wore special mourning clothing.
Yep.
Okay? Mm-hmm. So there's a period of time, I don't know what that time is that's customary, but they pull back the mourning clothing and then they communicate that they're ready for another relationship.
Right. Okay.
So that's kind of what she's doing.
The Matthew Henry commentary says basically that Naomi's just got more of a clue than Ruth. And so Naomi's going to vie for Ruth's well-being because Ruth is just not able to because she's not ready. She's not wise enough.
Okay.
And Naomi recognizes the situation where it's at and says, again, just, because she was after Ruth to stay back in Moab.
Right.
Take care of herself. Well, she came with her, so now Naomi's going to, I think, return the favor, try to get her married off and have it taken care of. That's
so if I were to change the word diabolical out, because it does have a tough connotation, and I put into it provocative, calculated, potentially, it's pretty extreme. It's an extreme gamble. Okay, don't you think? I mean, if you think about the character of Boaz and where he's been at so far, and the kind of man he is, don't you think this is a little bit of a push?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. But I also think that knowing that he's got the role of kinsman redeemer, Naomi's just trying to help this along because she knows that the law is we got to continue the bloodline here.
Yes,
and he's the guy. So, whether he knows to or not, we're just going to give this a little, a gentle push and kind of help it along a little bit.
Right.
And I think Boaz is interested. I think by his reaction, he's got a little bit of interest in Ruth, and not from a perverse way of thinking. I think he understands. He recognizes her. She's younger, and he knows his responsibilities as seen by his dealing with his servants to say, make sure when you're harvesting, you leave enough in the field. I mean, that was we just got through that in Leviticus, of God saying, don't reap the corners of your field. Make sure you leave enough there so that when people come in, they can eat, the poor can eat, they can glean, that type of stuff. And so Boaz is just doing what Boaz does. And so Naomi's just giving it a little help. She's kind of helping it along.
Helping her out a little bit?
Yeah,
okay.
I think so.
So I was looking to see if, let me read a little bit. I found something in a commentary on Daniel Block, commentary on Judges and Ruth. And he talks about this threshing floor, and normally the pile would have been at the edge of a winnowing floor, describing the scene where Ruth's perspective and her proposition, I guess, will be to lay down at the opposite end of the pile by Boaz. And then he talks about Boaz's reaction and doesn't know exactly how much time has gone on between all of this. But he brings up the fact that Ruth made her move, or he would have noticed immediately when she uncovered his legs. Once he had fallen asleep, she sneaks up, she uncovers his legs, and then lays down herself Satisfied with the accomplishments of the day and relaxed after a good meal, Boaz has drifted into a deep sleep, so that in the warm late spring evening he was oblivious to his exposed legs until midnight. And it says, potentially there's a Hebrew word here that he's got in the that means something startled the man, is how NIV translates it. And the Hebrew word says he shivered, probably because of some form of chilling or something of the night air. So as he gropes for the covers, he's surprised. Behold, he finds someone laying at his legs, and he doesn't recognize, who it is. That's pretty interesting, isn't it?
Well, it's dark.
Yeah, it's dark.
Right?
Yep. And so there you go. So I'm just thinking, I guess the purpose of the uncovered legs, realistically, that's why I told you some of the language could have taken it further from the way the words were used.
Well, it's obvious there's some ritual or something going on here.
Yeah, there is.
I don't quite know what it is, but it's obvious that this is something that was done pretty regularly in this type of circumstance, or in other not so noble circumstances, it sounds like. Yeah. And so, it's a natural reaction for Boaz to go, okay, what's going on here?
Sure. Well, verse 9, the first thing he says is, who are you?
Yeah.
That's a great question. And,
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, and she answers, I am your servant Ruth. Yep. Now, what I found interesting, she doesn't go by Ruth the Moabite.
Nope.
She's already saying, I'm your servant, which she did earlier when he welcomed her in a little bit. But what I found is it's a Semitic meaning of the word, spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are my kinsman redeemer. This is what I found a couple days ago when I was studying this. That phrase, spread the corner of your garment over me, is what's helped most interpreters understand. She's not a harlot. This isn't about a sexual encounter. This is a request, can I come under the protection of your wings, which means, will you marry me? Since you are the kinsman redeemer. Right. In other words, since there is a law in the land, obviously Ruth knows enough about that, even though she came from the Moabites.
Yep.
Maybe Naomi taught her. Obviously, we're going to find out Boaz knows enough about it. And she's saying, will you take me in and cover me and protect me? Mm-hmm. That's pretty sweet, actually, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's... Again, in gratitude, I think, to Ruth, Naomi's just trying to help this thing along and make sure that things are taken care of the way they should be, the way the law dictates they should be. And so because Ruth has come with her, there's obviously a bond of love between the two of them. And so Naomi's just, I think it's just kind of she's just being a mom, man.
But
she's just being a mom.
I'm thinking you take this to modern day here, and I'm thinking, man, this is a meddling mother. This is somebody who's trying to play matchmaker. I mean, that's kind of where I went with it. Who would send their daughter out like that to a guy who's potentially, I think it said earlier that he had maybe had a drink or two. I'm trying to remember he was in good spirits when he went over to lay down at the end of the day. What it was, I found something in some of the background that oftentimes they'd have a glass of wine before going to bed and different things. It doesn't mean he's drunk. It's not like Lot's daughters where they're getting the old man drunk so they can, sleep with him. But it has the feel of something just not right in the cover of darkness, in a way. In my opinion,
Yeah, I didn't go there with it, honestly.
Yeah,
I didn't go, but I didn't in my commentaries. The Matthew Henry says that there can be a connotation of something illicit going on.
And that's all it's said.
Right. The other one I have, the other commentary didn't go down that road.
Okay.
And so I'm probably just out of my naivete and not understanding what the custom is. Yeah. I just looked at it. I've always looked at it in going through this, like just with the daily scripture readings, I've always looked at it as just Naomi looking out for Ruth. There is this,
right? Just like Ruth looked out for her.
Yeah, and I think because there's this in the chapter before, it's all already set up because Boaz understands and realizes who she is and who Naomi is, so he knows his role in this. So, but your analogy of a meddling mother or meddling mother-in-law is because there's two types. Okay. There's one like meddles in the wrong way, like you like kind of, and you can look at this too. Almost, this could have been perceived as from a kind of like a gold digger.
Right. That's kind of where I was going with it.
Yeah, I don't look at it that way. I think, to me,
I don't think it's all that way.
I think to me, it's Naomi doing what is right and is just helping the law of God along. You know, whether she's supposed to or not, you can argue that. But I think because Boaz understands who they are, what his role is, and has used that term, kinsman redeemer,
yes,
I think she's just going, look, all right, so he recognizes you, he's been good to you. Yeah, you know, here's a chance for Ruth to be taken care of, you know, instead of she came with me. And so
here's what I'm thinking. To me, you know, as I step back a little bit, I mean, I was just kind of giving out my inclinations and thinking that.
And you could be totally right, by the way.
Which part?
All of it.
Yeah,
I mean,
I know it's just that
it could be more nefarious than what I think it is.
If somebody read it that way, that one of the things that I love to do in teaching Scripture in context is there's so many people that without the understanding of the Hebraic background or the culture of the day, you can miss what's going on here.
Right.
And now that I've brought that up, I mean, you can see where I could build a case that way. Okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, so my thought is, now we're in chapter 3 in Ruth. My thought is Naomi was walking with God originally, and then things went so south that she didn't even want to be called Naomi, so she wanted to be called Mara, which meant bitter. Mm-hmm. And she was angry with Yahweh, her God. But then when she prayed and just asked that her daughter-in-laws would find somebody else, she never knew initially that Yahweh would actually answer her prayers. So he does.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I believe they're all starting to come into an understanding. I think Boaz is starting to get it at a larger picture than he did. I think Naomi gets it, and I think Ruth gets it.
Yeah,
and this is actually a work of God. He's put this all together.
Yeah, I think Ruth saw some of this when they were leaving. I think she saw the faith of Elimelech and her husband. I forget which one she was married to. And Naomi's faith, and I think she looks at it and goes, we have these multiple gods here that don't do squat for us, and I'm watching the faith of these people, and I think that in part is why she goes with Naomi.
Beautiful
I don't think she quite has it, the whole picture of who God is, who Yahweh is, but I think she sees something in Naomi and Elimelech, which allows her to kind of shed the paganistic rituals of her life in Moab and latch on to Naomi and go, okay, well, let's see what you got. We'll just deal with this. We'll go through this together.
Great.
That's what I think.
Yeah, my closing thought is probably a question, and we'll see how it portrays in the next few broadcasts as we continue in Ruth. But mine is, who's showing the greater faith? Is it Naomi? You'd have to have unbelievable faith to send your daughter, the one you call my daughter, the relationship has built in such a beautiful way, into the night to a man and telling her, this is what you do, knowing that it's pretty risky. This thing could blow up so big a time because Boaz is a pretty straightforward guy. I mean, what if he says, get out of here? That's not the kind of woman I'd want laying next to me. He could have done that, okay? Or he could have said, hey, all right, let's go for it, and had missed the point. Now, I don't see any of that necessarily, but it would take great faith of Naomi to send her daughter in like that. Because that's what she didn't even call her daughter-in-law at this point. She really does love Ruth, and she's trying to get her covered, I believe. Then you go, okay, so what's the faith of Ruth? Oh my goodness, a young girl to go in there like that, follow that down. You're like, because Ruth has been married before. She knows the movie at some level. She's from another place. She's in a very vulnerable position. She has faith, and then you got Boaz. Okay. What kind of faith? And I just look at all this and think, wow, when the story unfolds, we're going to find probably all of them are amazing examples of faith, just following through on a divine plan that God is putting together.